All right, so these notes are part of lesson 2, a continuation from the guessing the ages activity we just completed together as a class. So as we discussed in the ages activity, it really didn't matter if you guessed, let's say, 10 years above a person's age or 10 years below a person's age. You would still be the same distance away from guessing the correct age, even though one was higher and one was lower. So we're going to look at that concept with number lines and then get into talking about absolute value and opposites. Okay, so the first part says use a horizontal number line to find the distance below. So we're going to start with what is the distance from 0 to 3. So if I'm going from 0 to 3 on a number line, the distance would be 1, 2, 3. Okay, what is the distance between -3 to 0? So if I'm going from -3 to 0, it would be 1, 2, 3. So it's important to note that no matter what direction you're going, whether you're going in a positive direction or a negative direction, your distance is always going to be positive. When we're talking about distance, you really can't have a negative. Think about in real life, if you walk 3 steps forward or 3 steps backwards, you're still walking 3 steps. There's really no such thing as a negative distance. Okay? So for the next two, what is the different distance from 0 to -5? I'm going to start at 0 and go to -5. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then what is the distance from 0 to 5? Starting at 0, we're going to +5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this up here shows us that the distance from 0 to 3 is 3, and that's the same as the distance from -3 to 0. Same with 0 to -5 and 0 to +5. Same distance away from 0. So absolute value, the definition, is the distance a number is away from 0. And we show that we're finding absolute value by using these symbols that you see around the 5 and the -5. Okay, so instead of asking what is the distance, it will say absolute value. Okay, so we're going to use this number line over here to show that the absolute value of 5 and the absolute value of -5 are the same, just like we did up here. Okay, so if I'm going from 0 to +5, the distance +5 is away from 0 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the absolute value of 5 equals 5 because that's the distance it is from 0. The absolute value of -5, if I'm going from 0 to -5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So -5 is 5 away from 0. So again, it doesn't matter whether you're traveling in the positive direction or the negative direction. Absolute value is always going to be positive because distance is always positive. Okay, so now we're going to evaluate or solve these expressions, and it's really important to show your work. Okay? So the first problem is the absolute value of -7 plus the absolute value of 12. So again, absolute value is our distance away from 0. It's always going to be positive. The absolute value of -7 is 7, and then plus the absolute value of 12 is 12. Make sure that you're not trying to just flip the sign and make it the opposite. A lot of times kids make mistakes. You would say the absolute value of -7 is 7, the absolute value of 12 is -12. Make sure that your answer is always positive. Okay, so 7 plus 12 then, you get 19. Number 2, absolute value of 18 is 18, plus absolute value of -2 is +2, 2 away from 0. 18 plus 2 is 20. Absolute value of 28 is 28. Then we're subtracting this time. Minus the absolute value of -7. Remember, it's always got to be positive. So 7, 28 minus 7 is 21. Number 4, of negative 45, that's 45 away from 0, positive 45, minus absolute value of negative 6 is 6. Subtract, you get 39. Okay? Now we're going to look at opposites. So make sure you don't confuse absolute value and opposites. If you're asked to find the opposite of a value, that's when you're going from positive to negative or negative to positive, because those are opposites of each other. Okay, so the opposite of positive 90 would be negative 90. The opposite of negative 126 would be positive 126. The opposite of negative 74 5/10 would be positive 74 5/10. And the opposite of negative 0